to welcome everyone out to family court today. I am the Honorable Judge Roy Bean. I will be presiding over the destruction of your family. That's why we call it family court. The course of your trial will be very lengthy. These proceedings will not be a trial in the manner that you might expect. These cases will be conducted on a kangaroo court basis. During the upcoming months, I will be violating your rights left and right. So go ahead and get used to it now. I prefer for you to be as compliant as possible with all of my directives. You will have no choice because I will have plenty of backup. The police or sheriff's deputies are here to do all of my bidding. By the way, the cops will also provide backup for everything the CPS or DSS agents tell you. That's why they call them law enforcement. Actually, that is a misnomer because they will not actually be enforcing the law. They will be enforcing my orders. In reality, they will be violating the law as part and parcel of our family court racket. But that is just an aside, so do not quote me on that. In fact, do not mention or reveal to anyone what takes place during these proceedings. I am placing a gag order on you. I am ordering you not to reveal anything of my skullduggery or that of the CPS or DSS workers. If you violate my order, I will have the cops put you in jail. They will gleefully do my bidding at all times. They are the enforcers in this very large criminal enterprise. I will also have complete judicial backup in the event you have the audacity to appeal any of my decisions. The judges over me will condone everything that I do. We are all in it together, so to speak. Money is a great motivator, and we are all after it. These proceedings, as I mentioned, will be quite lengthy. It will be so by design for two purposes primarily. Our aim in general is to extract as much money as possible from you for the benefit of myself and my fellow actors. Also, by dragging it out, it will help you to become accustomed to not having your children. Eventually, I will terminate your parental rights. We call it TPR. Although all of our proceedings will be conducted on a kangaroo court basis, do not even begin to think of it as a Mickey Mouse operation. Our very well-constructed racket garners for us hundreds of billions of dollars. This money is taken from the Social Security Trust Fund. So we will get the money, and this is big-time business. Unbeknownst to you, the attorney you have hired will be colluding with myself and the CPS or DSS workers. That is what makes our operation so smooth. Just to give you a friendly heads up on what to expect, you in all likelihood will become a pauper. You will spend all of your money trying to get your kids back, which will be an exercise in futility. You will not have a chance. It is kind of like the old arrangement of throwing a Christian to the lions. As we conduct our business, do not mention constitutionality, as that has no place in my courtroom. And I will tell you that in a heartbeat. Your so-called constitutional rights will be violated with regularity. As you have already noticed, I will be violating your First Amendment rights, the so-called freedom of speech. As I mentioned, there will be no jury trials, so your Seventh Amendment rights under the Constitution of the United States will equally be ignored and violated. Even if you request or demand a jury trial, I will deny that to you. That has already been arranged by design. Also, there will be no adherence to due process. You will not be allowed to defend yourself or prove your innocence. If I were to allow that, it would be crystal clear from the cold record that we have no case to stand on against you. So that will not happen. If you fail to comply with any of my court orders and fall behind on paying us the money that I order you to pay, I will also violate the constitutional prohibition against debtor's prison. I will put you in debtor's prison in a heartbeat. The coming months or years, as it may become, will be very stressful for you. Just to give you a friendly heads up, some of you your moms, dads, and your children will commit suicide. I do not encourage that, but I realize that frequently happens. Let me make it perfectly clear. We are not meaning to take your life. We just want to take all of your money. So that completes your orientation. Have a nice day. All rise and let the trial begin.
Can you hear me?
Sure. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. I've prepared a speech, and I'm going to read part of it, but I am one of the individuals behind this movement exposing the judicial corruption across the United States, starting a nonprofit, working with single parents and domestic violence and child abuse victims, and providing legal services. I was a paralegal once a time in the family law system, and I am working on a remedy for all of this. But here's my statement to the court today. Several months ago, I came before this committee and gave a speech exposing the Father's Rights Special Interest Group, known as the AFCC, and their medically unfounded, unethical, and unconstitutional legal defense known as parental alienation syndrome. I connected the dots perfectly. The AFCC and the usage of the legal defense known as parental alienation syndrome. First, it came into the national spotlight during the Woody v. Farrow trial. From that moment on, the movement to protect pedophiles, child abusers, and domestic violence perpetrators in family court from serving any prison time for their crimes has been unstoppable. This panel is continuing to allow this behavior to run rampant and unchecked throughout the entire Arizona judicial system. I, along with several other protective mothers that day, begged this committee to hear our cries for help. This committee heard mothers describe our children's suicide attempts, suicide idealization, depression, anxiety, and so much worse. And yet, you sit here doing absolutely nothing to address the human rights violations, the civil rights violations, and the constitutional violations that are being committed in every family courtroom throughout the state of Arizona. You are all complicit in the ongoing continued domestic violence, child abuse, and legal abuse of thousands of Arizona's most vulnerable children and their parents. Your inaction speaks volumes as to your individual characters. Your inability to control your courtrooms and judicial officials has set dangerous case law in precedent for every judicial agency to follow, ultimately placing millions of victims of lives in danger for future generations across the United States. I have not seen my daughter Addison Grace Barton, who is 15 in almost 2 years, and I refuse to partake in this corrupt judicial process. Approximately 4 years ago, my daughter came forward to myself, DCSF, and other mental health professionals exposing horrific emotional, physical, and psychological abuse that she had endured by the hands of her father, Jason Kim Barton. This is a call to action. We are demanding judicial accountability and oversight of this committee and all judicial officials who have continued to engage in these egregious crimes and allowed them to go unpunished. When police, lawyers, and judges refuse to follow the laws on the books and refuse to adhere and follow the Constitution, we have no laws, we have no order, we have anarchy. This is not democracy. This is child trafficking, collusion, extortion, racketeering, and white-collar crimes, ethics violations, and so much more. This is a call to action for this committee to do its job. The use of parental alienation syndrome as a legal defense tactic needs to be banned from courtrooms immediately. The World Health Organization and other worldly organizations.
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
I'm still in shock that a judge gave away my decision-making rights because I had an order of protection against my abuser, which was my child's father. I lost rights for being a domestic violence victim. Like, I thought I've heard some crazy stories in my life, some insane family court tales, but this is definitely one of the worst. That my ex gets full decision-making rights because he has an active order of protection against him. Somebody please tell me how that's supposed to make sense. I'm dying to know.
I just want to say a couple quick words real quick. I'm going to just say that these stories from all of these people are all saying the same thing. So both the family court and the criminal court that does criminal cases and also the courts that does civil cases, they all operate outside of the law, outside of the state constitution, outside of the United States Constitution, and they have adopted their own customs. They have adopted their own customs, which is a violation of Monel, okay? Which is violation of the Monel. And they're not honoring any kind of due process or justice for a person unless you are in one of the cabals or unless you can bribe the judge. Okay, if you can't bribe the judge, if you don't have any money for bribery, or if you don't work for the state, then guess what? You're outside of the club. You're considered outside of the club, so you don't get any benefits of the club. Okay? So you don't have any rights if you're not in the club. Now, to all the people that might be watching this video, just think about how many people in your family that works for the state, or think about how many people in your family is in a fraternity or sorority, and then just put those two things together and just think about any kind of court hearings that they had, any kind of employment opportunities that they have given. And I'm going to tell you right now that they get the first pick of everything. Okay. Anybody that's outside of that, which means that if you don't work for the state, okay, or if you haven't come from a different country where they can exercise deportation power over you if you don't comply with what they say, then you're not going to get due process, especially in Arizona. Whether that's family court, criminal court, or civil court, you're not going to get it. Okay. If you can't retain an attorney, okay, and give that attorney extra money so he can pass it off to the other side to pay for the justice, you're not going to get any. Okay, this is how our country has been being run. This is how these courts have been being run. Okay, it is so easy to rig a court. It's very, very easy to rig a court. It's very easy to make it look like sound things and sound rulings are happening and going on when they're actually not. Okay, so that's why we have rules like Arizona Code of Judicial Conduct and the canon rules, but they ignore those. They don't care about those. They don't care about the state constitution. They don't care about any of that. Matter of fact, I found in Florida's state constitution that the only lotteries that are legal in Florida, are pari-mutuel lotteries. Okay, now they have more than that going on. Okay, so obviously they're ignoring their state constitution, and these judges, they just ignore what you cite. If you cite something, they ignore it. But see, the difference with me, when I go in a courtroom, I put them all under the Constitution because I don't really expect them to do the right thing. But I know that I'm going to be able to come back later on and collect their bones because the laws that I'm using take authority over the other laws that they're using, and then they're just ignoring me. So all of the cases that I've had, all of the cases, whether they were civil, the civil cases and my brother's cases with his situation that I helped him with, all of those cases will be revisited. Now, those criminals, they thought they was doing something because at the time they was throwing out the case, dragging the case out and all of that. But we were sitting back smiling because we knew that when the change of power come in, we're going to go back and we're going to go back for them. OK, because when you file a lawsuit, it creates a case number and it's forever. And anybody that knows anything about law, I don't care how old a case is. I don't care how old it is. If there was fraud that was done, either fraud upon the court or fraud in the procurement of a judgment that's favorable to the person who committed the fraud, then that judgment can be overturned. And yes, I'm giving legal advice. Okay. Yes, I am. So that judgment can be overturned if it is found that fraud happened. So if the opposing side is concealing any material facts to the court intentionally, you can always go back and look at the judgment, and you can attack that judgment and get it overturned. Even if it's 25 years later, it wouldn't even matter, because there's a specific special rule that allows judgments that was procured without 14th Amendment due process or fraud is not a sound judgment at all. Okay, so literally, if you have cases where these things were done and these tactics were used on you, when this change of power come in under Trump, you're going to be able to get justice for all of those cases. Okay, you're going to be able to get justice, because even if you can prove that any of the judgments or decisions or rulings were lacking in 14th Amendment due process or equal protection of law, the decision, ruling, or judgment is regarded as a legal nullity under the law, under the federal law. Okay. Now, a lot of people will not have patience to keep going back and forth, but we do. We do, because these people are intentionally allowing this. They know what we're saying is true about the court corruption or whatever, but they're running a business. For them, it's just business as usual for them. They're just running a business. And the Department of Justice and the people that are in the Department of Justice right now, Merrick Garland and all them, they know about it. Okay, that's why all of them have to be removed to get rid of this virus. Nothing is going to change until this thing is gutted out at the root, and it has to be gutted out at the DOJ in Washington. It has to be gutted because they infiltrated there. Okay, and they put all of their people in there to do their bidding, and they have a network outside of the law. Okay, they also have a network outside of the law where they're stealing people's assets when they die. Okay, when they die, they steal people's assets. Let me tell you how they do it. If the person who dies doesn't have a will, they're already going to know how to get access to all of those assets, because this is a system that they have. This is what they do to get their money. So when people die, or when they kill people, they'll go after many of those assets. And then the person, whoever is assigned as personal representative of the estate of the deceased, will be given power that only they, which is the court and the attorney representing you, that they are gatekeeping. So they control how much of the power you have. And if they decide that they don't want you to have any of the assets, or they don't want you to put any of the assets on the inventory like the court requires, then they'll just work with the people who are holding the assets. Okay. The attorney will work with the people who are holding the assets, and they'll just keep you out of the loop, and they'll just keep stonewalling you. This is what happened to Moses's assets after he died, my brother. Okay. They've encumbered his YouTube channel. Okay. And they've also took control of my estate planning attorney and had him doing what they told him to do. So a lot of times, people have these problems when people die in their family and the family is fighting. Let me tell you where that comes from. That comes from these outside people. Okay, they get the family to go against one another. They do the divide and conquer. So they have their little ops talking to the family. They'll use anybody to do it, and they'll put thoughts in their head to say, "Oh, well, you should be getting this and you should be getting that and you should get that." Then it causes the family to start fighting each other over the assets. And while the family is busy fighting over the assets, what they actually do is they collude with the judge And they collude with the attorneys, and they collude with the banks where the assets are being held at, and they all just work together behind the person's back, and they basically decide everything and try to keep as much out of the court as possible. But that's what they do. That's what they do. And then you can't get nothing done. Nobody's answering telephone calls. Nobody's answering emails. Nobody's replying, and everyone's running and doing what they want to do. So this is what's done. So a lot of people that are working every day, working hard and aspiring to be successful, going to their jobs every day or running their business every day, with this kind of activity going on and with this cabal sitting back doing this stuff, they're just sitting back watching people who has this money, who has that money. And what they do is they cause problems in the family until they cause a death, and then they go after all of those assets. OK, so a lot of people are not inheriting the property that they are supposed to inherit. A lot of people are not seeing their inheritances because it's stolen by a lot of times the state. OK, because they have this systematic process going on where they do that. They have that going on in Arizona. I can speak for Arizona. That's what they have going on there. So it's basically like the mafia took over the courts, took over the civil courts, federal courts, the family court, and it's just one big free for all. So if you don't have no money, or if you're not a part of the state, or if you're not a part of the club in some way, shape, or form, either via sorority or fraternity or a state employee, you don't get nothing. So whoever you're going against, if they are a cop or if they work for the state in some capacity, it doesn't matter. Then they're going to be given the favorable decisions and everything because they regard them as one of their own. So this clears up a lot of things and puts a lot of clarity in why these citizens of Arizona have been experienced a lot of this due process and unconstitutionality. And the Arizona Commission on Judicial Conduct, they have a rule where they have 2 years. OK, they have 2 years to investigate a report submitted about a judge. Now, during that 2 years, what is the person who's making the complaint supposed to do? You see how even the complaint process is rigged to not provide you any realistic relief. It's rigged to not provide you any realistic relief because it's done in such a way to just leave you out there. OK? And no one's going to help you. So that's why I said when this new Trump administration come in, I'm pretty sure that they are going to have something in place where they're going to have oversight over all these courts in all 3,007 of the counties in America. They're going to have oversight because they've been scamming and rigging everything, and everything is just scammed and rigged in America. Rigging and scamming has been the American way for so long. OK, and everyone knows it now. It's pretty transparent now. It's pretty obvious now. OK, so hopefully we can get some of this stuff to start being cleaned up before Donald Trump take office. But this is a lot of the reasons why a lot of these people didn't want Donald Trump to get elected as president, because he became rich in this country and feels like he's giving back by making this country a better place and more comfortable for the people who were born and raised here, and for his grandchildren and his children's future. OK, because like I said, money can only go so far. Once you have so much money, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Then you have to have a legacy. You have to have something that you stand for. You have to have something that people will remember you by, that impacted their life when you're gone, so you could still be remembered. Most people that die are long forgotten after 2 or 3 years after they die. OK, but if they did significant things while they were here with just helping people and just doing things that people will remember about them, then their memory is carried on. And I think that's the blessing. That's the ultimate blessing in life, is how will you be remembered? Who did you help? all of that, all of those things. But I'm going to end it here. I don't want to make this all long and drawn out. I just wanted to show you guys about what's going on in Arizona. Arizona Supreme Court is aware of it. But like I said, they are infiltrated. The Arizona State Attorney General's office is infiltrated. The Arizona Commission for Judicial Conduct, all of that is infiltrated. They're not going to go against the mafia that infiltrated them. So the DOJ has a big job to do. All right. And somebody or someone who's in the DOJ that's current now is allowing this. This stuff can't happen without it being allowed. So that's what's happening. But I'm going to close that out. And all constitutional rights invoked, now waived.
They just found a batch of new ballots. 40 million new ballots. Kamala Harris is president-elect.
Bullshit! She better not have.
You know what? Hillary Clinton and her are working together. They're hiding files.
What?
She's your president.
She ain't my president.
She just won the election.
A woman can't run this country.
God, not if it's like you.
Oh, I get it straight.
They just...
Can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened
was Malcolm X to me was the most important spokesman we have ever had in this country for black people, bar none. And everything he said, I agreed with. Everything he said, I agreed with. And I was absolutely, I'm still not over the fact that he's gone. And I really would like to say that I think it's black people's fault that he's dead. Just as it's black people's fault that Martin Luther King is dead. They didn't give him any protection. They ran him away. They followed him, but they didn't protect him. They're willing to die, but they're not willing to kill. Hey, man, I get upset when I think about it. I get upset, and that's one of the reasons I don't live in this country. There's no protection. Malcolm X.
We're gonna break down their shit.
Any final words for the people?